Today we're going to talk about how Bru McCoy's transfer to Texas can impact USC's 2020 class, in particular with Bryce Young, and how that figures for Oklahoma, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today's video is presented by American Putter Company. Go to AmericanPutterCompany.com. When you use checkout, use my name, RJ Young, in the promo, you'll get a discount. So now, let's talk about how Bru McCoy's transfer to Texas has sent shockwaves through college football and what that means for the 2020 class, in particular, the #1 dual threat quarterback in the country for the 2020 class, according to 24/7 Sports. I work at 24/7 Sports, so that's why I think it. Plus, the composite is the standard, and we all know this. So, if you don't know by now, Bru McCoy to Texas is official. The dude signed a financial aid agreement with the University of Texas. He is a Longhorn. For him, the hooks go up permanently. And he was down to USC in Texas. But for those of you that haven't been following along with Bru McCoy's recruitment, nobody really was saying it out loud, but it always felt like Bru McCoy was a USC commit since he was in diapers. This is a guy who had a USC jersey in his closet with his number on it. Went to Modern Day. You'll also note that Oklahoma pulled Darian Green Warren for the 2020 class and Jeremiah Cradell from the 2019 class from Modern Day. Now, you also know that Bryce Young is going to be a senior quarterback at Modern Day. And now that USC is in shambles, what does this mean for a blue blood program that should never have had this much egg on its face and be this embarrassed? And it started with Lynn Swann for me because you had a bad year at USC. I know you had a true freshman quarterback, but JT Daniels looks like the dude going forward, and for good reason. He's gone from being a guy that could be out 3 years to a guy that's going to have to stick around for all 4 to demonstrate to the rest of us that he's ready for the NFL. But you never know. He could have a Heisman season at USC, just probably not in 2019 as opposed to 2020. Not in 2019 as opposed to 2020. You know what I mean here. Not this season, because the assets just aren't there. And that was kind of the thing with Bru McCoy is he was kind of holding this class together. 2 5-star receivers, committed to them, signed to them at the All-America Bowl. It was a very big deal. Bru commit was the prize for a lot of folks. We're talking about a kid that was recruited by everybody, including Oklahoma. At Alabama, Nick Saban wanted the dude to play outside linebacker because he's just that gifted as a pass rusher. And he's got size to do almost anything, but what he wants to do is catch passes. And you could see him out there running routes while Spencer Rattler was throwing bombs to him at the All-American game. So everybody's really interested in what Bru McCoy was doing. I did not think that they would go so far as to pull the rug out from under him like they did while letting Cliff Kingsbury walk out the door. But at the end of the day, it wasn't that they let him walk out the door. It's that Cliff Kingsbury never really wanted to be at USC, and I don't blame him. This is a guy who was a head coach at Texas Tech, was bad, was mediocre, still a head coach, who was asking to take a step down like head coaches who have bad seasons are asked to do. But he was also being asked to put together a class that was mostly already put together, build around a quarterback he did not recruit, and build an offensive system around players that didn't fit. It was only a good job if you're Cliff Kingsbury and you want to see what it's like to live in Los Angeles and you would like to have USC on your resume, because you're working for Clay Helton. And it's not that Clay Helton isn't a nice guy. By many accounts, he's one of the nicest head coaches in all of college football. It's that Clay Helton doesn't run the same sort of offense that Cliff Kingsbury runs. So you would be working for a guy who doesn't necessarily believe in your system or doesn't know your system and would have to leave you alone. But because Clay Helton was being left on as the head coach at USC after he was told to fire most of his staff, you got to know that Lynn Swann was trying to put Cliff Kingsbury in position to be the next head coach at USC. And if you're Clay Helton, you feel some kind of way about that, but you're also under contract, you want to keep your job. And I've always felt that college football head coaches who are willing to fire the bulk of their staff on both sides of the ball and retain the job are dead men walking. You don't have loyalty. You don't have trust. You're bringing in people that you were made to bring in as opposed to people that you came up with. And you're asking to play musical chairs in a business where relationships matter more than they might matter at any other place. And you, frankly, didn't have much of a relationship with Cliff Kingsbury to start with. And now, yeah, you got a 2020 quarterback that you like in Bryce Young that Cliff Kingsbury likes, and you're excited about that. But when the NFL comes knocking at your door to be a head coach, you're going to take it. And I don't begrudge Cliff Kingsbury in the least for taking the Arizona head coaching job. In fact, if I were him, I would have done the same thing. But now, Clay Helton has dragged his feet in such a way that they don't even have an offensive coordinator today, right now. This is Saturday of January leading into National Signing Day. And I get that your class is mostly set for 2019, but if a guy like Bru McCoy could become so upset at USC, having wanted to go to USC from day one, that he transfers to Texas 3 weeks after signing a national letter of intent, goodness me. And, depending on who you talk to, and I talked to most folks around Bru McCoy and around this situation, they were prepared to legally fight for Bru McCoy's right to leave and transfer to Texas. And for those of you that want to go down this trail of signing day and national letters of intent don't mean anything, no, neither do contracts for head coaches in college football. Every kid signs a national letter of intent can transfer. How soon they want to transfer? They can transfer the next day if they want to. That's how this business works. And I am a player advocate because they're at a disadvantage. Their coaches make hundreds of thousands and in some cases millions of dollars to do a job that I would do for Pee Wee, okay? For absolutely nothing. So if Bru McCoy wants to transfer 3 weeks after signing his national letter of intent, fine. I'd say the same thing for Theo Weiss, Jado and Hazelwood, Trajan Bridges, Spencer Rattler, if that's what they wanted to do. But that's not what they want to do. It is what Bru McCoy wanted to do. And now going to Texas, he adds a wide receiver to a group of wide receivers I think could be pretty good. You're talking about Devin Duvernay and Colin Johnson, and whether or not Bru McCoy gets a waiver to play this season, I don't think he will, but he's got a case if they're going to warrant Tate Martell transferring from Ohio State because Urban Meyer retired and they no longer run a system that helps him. The same can be done for Bru McCoy, who signed a national letter of intent when he thought Cliff Kingsbury was the offensive coordinator. You can take that for what you want, but we also saw New Orleans Saints fans sue the NFL and ask him to play the last minute of the game over because they didn't like the call. It's a very bad call. It's an awful call. It's the worst call I've ever seen in professional football. They're still not going to play the game over, and you're still kind of crazy for suing them, but this is America, where our favorite pastime is suing people and taking people to court when we feel like our feelings get hurt with, stuff that doesn't matter. And I think that this is a thing that does matter depending on who you are personally, and that's for a judge to decide, and I'm not one. However, that's the lengths for which Bru McCoy's group was willing to go to get him to the University of Texas. So now that he's at the University of Texas, that means that he's probably going to end up playing in the Red River rivalry, if not 2019, definitely in 2020. And I'm excited about that because this is going to be fun. And you're talking about a wide receiver group at Oklahoma going up a really stout secondary group at Texas, even in 2019, so forth, so on. But now how does this affect Bryce Young? Well, if you look at the 2020 recruiting class for USC, you can see it's Bryce Young, and then it's Coy Moore, and then it's a kicker. That's what we're talking about right now. Coy Moore is a 4-star wide receiver. We get that. Bryce Young is a 5-star quarterback. We also get that. But if you're Bryce Young, do you really want to be the top commit to USC right now? Are you really having that much faith that Clay Helton is going to get the ship put back together in time for you to show up? And even then, you're playing behind JT Daniels for at least one more year, you got to believe. And for Oklahoma's purposes, you know that they just loaded up with Spencer Rattler, who is a 5-star quarterback as well, and you'd be following right behind that guy. And we all know that quarterbacks are the most likely to transfer. They are the ones for which we're also going to focus when we look at the transfer portal. So I would not expect a guy like Bryce Young, wherever he goes, to go to a place where he wouldn't think about transferring, just like I wouldn't expect Tanner Mordecai to not think about transferring if it looks like Spencer Rattler's going to be the guy following Jalen Hurts. So this is all really up in the air. And if you're Bryce Young, you're looking for any place to land where you feel like you're going to compete and be the starter. At least that's what I would do. And there's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked out, but the 2020 class is the primary class for us to watch now, right? 2019 recruiting is basically over. There's a few outliers, but we know what the class is going to be. And now you need a quarterback to this class. And when you look at the offers that Lincoln Riley has thrown out, yeah, he's got some guys, but he also tagged Bryce Young as the guy that he wanted most. And I think a move is going to be made, not necessarily soon, but I would be surprised to find out that Bryce Young is still very much leading USC's charge to fight on in 2020. But I've been wrong before. Just saying that if you lay out how all of this works and you're putting it together, it's real difficult to call Bryce Young a Trojan just on general principle, because Brew McCoy was a Trojan right until he wasn't, even after signing a national letter of intent. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.